Next on Reboot Your Life.
Coming up on Reboot Your Life, we talk with a renowned mystic so accurate that the legal system uses her to predict outcomes, giving evidence that faith and spirituality are more than just a notion.
Plus, we speak with a resilient young woman on a mission to educate others in the hospitality industry about the challenges of addiction.
It's next. From Riverside Recovery, it's Reboot Your Life. Experience the ultimate reboot of your journey. Start anew and rediscover you. Transform your story. Rewrite your life. It's Reboot Your Life with Cary Harrison and Ashley Neal.
Cary Harrison with you along with Ashley Neal. And thanks for listening to Reboot Your Life, where we help you get back the life you love through life hacks for recovery, the science of addiction, and tons of valuable insights, expert advice, and relatable stories of human experience. This podcast and broadcast is where knowledge meets inspiration, where health and wellness converge in the dynamic universe of exploration, recovery, and helping you get back that life you love. You can also enjoy our anytime podcasts on all major listening platforms. Just enter Reboot Your Life. And make sure you like us when you listen or share, since you know we already like you.
We would love it if you would shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail with anything that might be on your mind. You can do that 24/7. The phone number is 323-8-REBOOT. Again, that number is 323-8-REBOOT.
You know, a couple of years ago, our next guest was interviewed on Inside Edition on the effects that COVID-19 had on the public. You and me are the public. I remember all those effects. Well, she said, and this is very smart, in times of uncertainty, people often turn toward the paranormal to provide a sense of comfort. People become more superstitious when they face uncertainty. And so I suspect that COVID will have resulted in more people carrying out superstitious rituals. Visiting psychics can be a part of that. Well, is there a science behind intuition, behind psychic capabilities, behind the ability to see and feel what others simply cannot? Many of us seeking spirituality and different ways of expressing faith, understanding, and connection to each other, who we see, sometimes powers that we cannot see. It being the holiday season, various traditions and faith tell different stories of a season that are shared by all of us. But you know, we also talk about quantum physics and metaphysics. Quantum physics even mentioned back in the movie, what was it called, with Christopher Nolan's latest, all about Fat Man and Little Boy, the atomic bombs. It was whispered anyway. Point is, it's been around for a long time as theory, but really it's been turned into practice. And that's what we're going to look in today, is how real is this stuff? Metaphysics are beginning to line up that there are parallel universes. There are multiverses made popular by Marvel Comics, except there's more to it than comics. And now officially at the government level, extraterrestrial life, as in Congress, as in NASA, as in the Defense Department. That said, let me introduce a woman who is not only an accomplished author, but also a nationally known psychic intuitive. Her abilities have led her to extraordinary places, including practicing as a licensed lawyer in Dallas. She's not only gifted with otherworldly insights, but also possesses the acumen to navigate the intricate world of criminal and civil law. There's more to Michelle Welch than meets the eye, because she's a grief doula, the owner of 3 crystal shops called Soultopia, and during her free time was actually able to become a mother of 5 in 7 or 8 minutes, I'm sure. And if you don't think that women are remarkable, just look at all they're able to take on without keeling over like most of us men would. She also has a popular Instagram series called Tarot Takeaways, where she shares deep insights from the mystical world of tarot, and a podcast called Soul What? Anything more, you wonder? Well, in addition to practicing law, she also lends her intuitive talents to high-profile court cases, assisting in jury selections and offering her insights to help shape the outcomes. She's been seen on CBS News, Coast to Coast AM with George Noory, who's been on this show many times, Inside Edition, Good Morning Texas, and dozens of radio shows and podcasts. Michelle Welch, we want to welcome you to Reboot Your Life.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are glad to have you here, and I know that Ashley Neal, at least I hear through the grapevine, knows a thing or two about tarot. And we all know about it, but we don't know how real it is. And I would love you guys to kind of explore that together.
Well, and I've never had a reading, really, other than the one that my 13-year-old gave me with a stack of cat tarot cards. So I'm interested if you can tell me and Cary and our listeners about work with tarot.
Yes, I can. I mean, that's a broad topic, but when Cary said, sorry, I lost your name there. When Cary said, "Is it real and how does it work?" I think that's still there's a lot of debate about that, even amongst the best practitioners. But for me, the major arcana, the main cards, and then there's like four pip suits, just like playing cards. The major arcana are from Carl Jung archetypes. And so, in that way, I know psychologists that use the cards and really don't even put any intuition in the cards, or they claim not to. I think everyone probably does, but they just go by the system. So, there's something I think about the thought form around tarot and the system that works, even with the people who don't bring in their intuition to it. They just love it. So.
There's a interesting, you mentioned Carl Jung, who is endlessly famous in the US. Sure, everyone has heard the name Sigmund Freud, but they all think it has something to do with somebody's mother and a couch. It probably did. We weren't there. But Carl Jung was definitely the upgrade. And he famously wrote endless letters back and forth between guys like Bill Wilson, who was one of the founding fathers of many of the recovery programs that people are familiar with. So Carl Jung is considered a superhero to millions and millions in many different walks of life. And the fact that tarot cards are sculpted even around his great work makes it even more interesting, I think, to the average guy. Michelle Welch, when did you discover you could tap into other realms? We know you're real because the legal system looks to you. When you noticed that about yourself, was that scary or just, oh, well, yeah, so I just see this stuff?
It was scary. It's been always. A lot of people will forget or they'll repress it. It was definitely conditioned out of me, or should have been. It was not accepted in my home, and that's fine. I love my parents. It just was not in alignment with their beliefs. And so I didn't really know what to do with it, because when people be singing at this time of year, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and I went to church 3 times a week, I'd be like, and there they are. And that wasn't well received. So it was scary. Probably 4 to 6. I'm thinking probably more 6, because there's a study that says you can't remember anything under the age of 2. I'm thinking 4 to 6. I said to my uncle, I put my hands on his head, and he was bald, kind of like Kojak back in the day. And I put my hands on his head and I said, "You have worms in your brain." And I got in trouble for telling him that he had worms in his brain. And that's the only way I knew how to describe it. And I got sent to my room, which happened all the time. And he was later, about, I don't know how long. I mean, it felt short to me, my memory of it, but he got diagnosed with brain cancer. So, and that was a hard way to live. I'll pick up on things that are scary, and scary even now, that some of the things I pick up on that I don't want to know. So
Cary Harrison here with you, along with Ashley Neal. This is Reboot Your Life, and we're talking right now to Michelle Welch, a true Renaissance woman, accomplished author, nationally known psychic, intuitive, licensed lawyer. And Michelle has navigated both the mystical and legal realms with finesse. As the owner of 3 crystal shops, a grief doula, and a mother of 5, she defies the ordinary, but not all of it. Michelle hosts the popular Instagram series Tarot Takeaways, the podcast So What, and beyond her mystical pursuits is lending her intuitive talents to high-profile court cases, shaping outcomes seen on CBS News, Coast to Coast AM, Inside Edition, and more. And Michelle Welch, I think the average person can probably relate. Many of us are hunting for spirituality. We seek it. We hope to have some sort of higher power, whatever that ubiquitous, indescribable, weightless entity may or may not be for many. So we don't really know, but we do know, for instance, and we've all experienced it, when someone is standing behind you looking at you. You don't see them at all, but boy, do you see them. And most of us have had that experience. So all we have to do is stretch a little more and know that yours is just much more developed. And now we can go, oh, okay, this is what we're talking about. Yours is just like super intense, high frequency.
I guess so. And it's interesting how you brought up the metaphysics and the quantum physics, because I can barely do like 2+2, but I am really, math is not my thing. Science is not my thing. But for some reason, spiritually, it's energy and how it works has become not my soul thing, but I'm very interested in it and how metaphysics ties in, which is really in quantum physics, quantum mechanics, and it's not something that comes naturally to me. So that's where, and the people seeking something, I think we're all just seeking something other, and it's different, like you said, for every person. And it may take us down a path that we totally never thought we'd be taken down, but maybe at some point in our life, we need something different and something other to help us through some of the things we're going through.
You know, I wonder, Michelle Welch, when I think about my own senses, and I'm not gifted your way, but I can see billions of miles away. I can. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I don't believe that. Not even for a second. But I'm telling you right here, right now, I can see billions of miles with my eyes. And it's called looking up at the stars. Because what I'm seeing happened maybe billions of years ago. So our senses technically reach billions of miles. Our hearing can go all the way across the Hillsborough Bay, where I'm sitting right now, to the other side. I can hear Apollo Beach. Well, at least on the 4th of July when they do fireworks. But my senses can go miles or hundreds of billions of miles. And all we're talking about is your senses are not maybe the physical organs attached to the human body, but it's inside, it's the mind.
Right. And I think that we can all develop it. I struggle. I'm always in my head about the things that people have written. I don't want to just go by what's been written and I'm just regurgitating that information. I really test, does this sit right with me? And so I'm a little bit of a psychic rebel on that. Sometimes I really will go, I'm not sure that's right. It might not be right for me. Maybe that's an experiential filter that I don't have, but I've been toying with that. Is everybody intuitive? Can everyone do what I do? And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way at all, because I've tried to get rid of it often in my life, the extremism of it. But I think the answer is yes. I mean, we have instinct, we have fight or flight, we have it for a reason. There's a tiger, run, and all the way up to someone who just taps into a little bit more other. But I believe everyone can develop it, and everyone does use some form of intuition. They're clairs, the clairvoyance, clairseeing, or any kind of clair in their life.
We're going to do something fun here, and the first person who texts to our Reboot Your Life hotline at 323-8-REBOOT, 323-8-REBOOT, you're going to get a hard copy of Michelle's new book. If you want to know how all of this works, what's out there, how to access it, how she accesses it, what she's learned through much of her life, you're going to get a copy of this book by texting 323-8-REBOOT, 323-8-REBOOT. And it is one hell of a read. So much so that that's why we have her here today, because I love talking to people who are actually legit in an area where people just aren't sure. So much so, let's talk about the court systems. You're brought in because you're capable of often predicting outcomes. You know, if the lawyers could do that, they'd be very happy, but they can't. So they call you in. What's that all about?
That's really interesting how that has happened. I realized when I was in law school, graduated from law school, and they threw me in at the DA's office in Dallas. Like the second day, I was trying cases like jury trials because I was willing. So that's kind of scary that I was prosecuting, jury trials at 24 years old. But, and that's where I just learned that I thought I was so smart. I thought, man, I'm really good at picking juries. And then I realized that's that intuition that you have quelched for a long time. And that's when I started to realize I was using it for jury trials and using it to actually remote view. You were talking about the government and things like that. Well, they've used remote viewing. And so I use that in a case that I have permission to talk about in my book, Spirits Unveiled. And I used it and I literally just described, I did several things in that case, but I just described a rectangular with glass, and there was silver around it, and there was blood on it, but I didn't know what it was. So I just remote viewed that little bitty part of what turned out to be a car that sadly the young lady was put in and taken away in that car. And I was brought into that case because they couldn't find her body. So I worked on that too. But I would say this, it's not good for everyone to just call in and go, I have psychic information for you, because the police officers and detectives have to chase down every leader, and they're responsible for that. So that's when I get upset, what you were saying, the real deal, people who are just messing with the system and messing with people's emotions. When I tapped into this, I was asked if I would meet with the parents, and they said everybody from all over has been psychics, and I actually refused. I declined. I said, I just will help from and not be called on the, as a witness. I'll just observe. And that is really, to me, where my ethics come in a little bit more than maybe some people think about what goes on when you just call and try to get involved in a case when you shouldn't be.
One of my favorite words, ethics. I don't get to hear it often enough, so I appreciate you having brought it up. Yay, somebody with ethics. It's exciting. Excuse me. We're talking to Michelle Welch, true Renaissance woman, accomplished author, nationally known psychic intuitive, licensed lawyer, helping juries, does tarot. CBS News has featured her, many different channels, news channels. She's turns out to be the legitimate version of someone with senses. And as many people are in recovery, as many people seek to extend themselves to some sort of spiritual essence, I think it's helpful to find out that, it may not look like what you think, but it can show up in good ways and do good things. And who doesn't want the good thing kind of spiritual experience? And your book, Spirits Unveiled, speaks to many of these kind of good things. You spoke about angels in church. We know what's going on. And I think to me, it's a soothing emollient to hear that there is actually something out there and that I'm not just tilting at my own windmill of hope.
I agree. And that is, and it may change for people over time. I was raised a certain way, or it doesn't mean, and I tell people this all the time, because I think it can be very disconcerting to people. They think they have to throw out their belief system to do what I do, or to even do it for themselves personally. They have to throw out everything. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can add your faith into whatever that is for you, and whatever that higher power is for you, and you can add that into what I do. People may not understand it, and I'm not going to proselytize and try to go against their faith, but we each come to it. And I know that is helping a lot of people when it, again, is handled in the proper way.
As we come to the end here, and this is so fascinating. I mean, I could spend days like a tea bag steeping in the wisdom and of your experience. But is there any way you can sort of augur the future of the next year? I mean, I'm sure the listeners are all going, come on, get to it. So is there like a little peek over the horizon there we might get?
Yes. And I want to say that I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but for the last 3 years, it's been very difficult for me to say positive things. But I always try. I think we're going to struggle a little bit with this election coming up. And I'm not going into the politics of it. I'm just saying we have to make a decision of how we're going to get along and how we can communicate. And that doesn't take a psychic, but everything revolves around that and how we can thought form and change it. So I'm not skirting your question. I'm just saying I see the economy not doing so well. But the hope is that we can change it. We're not predestined. We have free will, but we don't have to go back to behaving the way we behaved. And that's why I wrote my first book, is how we connect. And then we're all connected. So my predictions is it's not going to be instantly better just because the clock ticks to January 1st. And I think it will get a little bit worse, the economy and some other things, before it gets better. But I'm expecting around July, we're going to know how much better because of how we behave. And it sounds like I'm skirting it, but I'm not. I mean, it's everything. It really does rely on how we behave and treat one another, which we have kind of forgotten how to do that, in my opinion.
You just nailed it. It's up to us. Like, we can misbehave and we can be, hispidulate, knuckle walking mountebanks, or we could be nice. If you're nice to someone else, guess what? They're nice back to you. I know it's kindergarten. It's that stuff from the sandbox, but they were onto something back then. And sometimes as grownups, we have to remind each other, you get what you give. So give good, you get good back. And as Gandhi would remind us, we get the world that we want to live in by creating it. It's not handed over as a gift. This is not France. They have it built into their system. We have to work for it here. So sounds to me like a noble effort. I want to thank you so much, Michelle Welch. Your book is called Spirits Unveiled. We're going to actually give away a few more. So the next, I don't know how many people have texted, but let's just say the first 3 to 323-8-REBOOT, 323-8-REBOOT. You're going to get a copy of Michelle Welch's new book, Spirits Unveiled, 323-8-REBOOT. Simply send a text and your email. Yeah, don't just send a text there. Hey, here's my text. Well, that's not going to help us much, is it? Send a text, name and email address, and we will get back to you, and we will get you a hard copy of her book, Spirits Unveiled. You can hear her on CBS News, Coast to Coast AM, Inside Edition, and more. She's refiring up a new podcast starting in January. Her Instagram series is called Tarot Takeaways, and she is the real deal psychic. So we've gotten some really interesting understanding of how not only psychic abilities work, quantum physics, but also the notion that spirituality is absolutely real and that you can use it for good, which I think is the part we all love. Coming up, we're going to talk to a woman who can tell us about the inside life of what it means to be in the hospitality industry, and talk about cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I think you would agree there, Ashley. It is. People have no idea what goes on under that tablecloth.
We're going to find out.
More straight ahead.
Are you familiar with Riverside Recovery of Tampa? Well, they offer a profound, all-embracing approach to addiction treatment. With a dedicated team of empathetic professionals, Riverside Recovery is committed to guiding individuals on their path to enduring recovery, using a variety of science-backed therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery values the individuality of every recovery journey. Their tailored treatment plans respond to the specific needs, the hurdles, and goals of each resident, providing effective aid regardless of whether you're taking your first steps in recovery or maintaining your progress. With Riverside, recovery isn't just achievable, it's an influential journey towards a healthier, brighter future. The testimonials of those who've undergone treatment there are evidence of rediscovered self-worth and potential. Located on the tranquil Hillsborough River of Tampa, Riverside serves as a peaceful haven, promoting self-discovery and healing. They acknowledge that recovery is about more than just overcoming difficulties. It's also about finding your innate strength and resilience. The Riverside Recovery's committed team are your empathic allies in your recovery journey. They comprehend that genuine healing involves the mind, body, and spirit, meticulously dealing with all facets of addiction. Riverside Recovery is your haven, providing a continuous stream of hope, nourishing the seeds of long-standing change and rejuvenation. Discover more at rrtampa.com or reach out at 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440.
Did you know that Reboot Your Life is on every major podcast service in the world? Now you can hear us 24/7, on demand, and share us and like us with your friends. Keyword, Reboot Your Life on every platform from Spotify to Apple, iHeart to SiriusXM's Pandora, even Overcast and TuneIn. So join us online and share us with everyone you know in recovery, or who could benefit by hearing these shows. Let us know what you think of our podcasts, and throw in some likes and stars for extra love. Now we're always here for you. That's Reboot Your Life wherever you get your podcasts.
Life 2.0. It's your life and your reboot. It's Reboot Your Life with Cary Harrison and Ashley Neal.
Cary Harrison with you, along with Riverside Recovery's Ashley Neal, and thanks for listening to Reboot Your Life, where we help you get back the life you love through life hacks for recovery, the science of addiction, and tons of valuable insights, expert advice, and relatable stories of human experience. You can also enjoy our Anytime podcasts on all major listening platforms. Just enter Reboot Your Life. And make sure you like us when you listen or share, since you already know that we like you.
We sure do. Plus, you can also shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail with anything that might be on your mind. Maybe you have a story that you would like to tell, and maybe we'll even put it on the air. You can text or call that number 24/7, and that number is 323-8-REBOOT. Again, the number is 323-8-REBOOT. So let me introduce you to Taylor Model. She is the HR manager at Riverside Recovery of Tampa. She is going to talk with us today about alcohol and drug use in the hospitality industry. Taylor comes to us today with 2 decades of experience in the demanding trenches of the hospitality industry. In her current role, Taylor dons the mantle of support for the friendly staff at Riverside Recovery, ensuring that they wield the right tools and resources to help folks find the easy path to recovery. Her unwavering commitment extends to everybody inside and outside of Riverside Recovery, a commitment that transcends mere professional duty. Miami-born, she has seamlessly woven herself into the tapestry of the greater Tampa Bay area. But Taylor is not merely a former denizens of boardrooms and offices. She is a devotee of the mindful discipline of yoga, an adventurer embarking on out-of-state hiking escapades, and a virtuoso in the delicate art of engaging with the alumni of Riverside Recovery. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
I think Ashley left out that you're a model of resilience, and that's model MODEL as opposed to MOTTLE. And I like the alliteration and homonym of your name. You're an advocate for recovery, a fan of holistic well-being. We're glad you're here today. And having worked in the hospitality industry for, I think, 20 years, a couple of decades, you bring a wealth of experience to your current position. How are those skills and lessons learned in hospitality? How do they contribute to an individual's success in their post-treatment endeavors, maybe?
Yeah, so on that, I can speak to myself personally. I am in recovery myself and actually an alumni of Riverside Recovery. I was a part of one of the first waves of groups once we opened in 2017. So I have a unique kind of take on that, working here now, but also being on the client side. But I was in hospitality for, like Ashley said, 2 decades, and I struggled a lot with the skills that were required to make that job work, and being under the influence for the majority of my career in hospitality. But once I found recovery and I realized that the skills that I were learning in hospitality were so much applicable to real life and recovery in general, time management, people skills, communication, organization, being able to just communicate your needs and understand other people's needs, I think was a major lesson and an awakening when I got sober. I was like, wow, I know how to do this stuff. Like, I learned these things. So it was really cool to be able to apply that afterwards. And I apply that in my professional life too, with training and mentoring leaders. I try to advise everyone that, you have these skills, you just have to search for them. And Riverside's uniquely equipped, I think, to navigate those skills. We do have a large percentage of our staff that are in recovery. So it kind of transcends, right? Personal and professional a little bit. It's pretty unique and exciting.
I thought I saw Ashley's lips starting to move, and I know what she was going to say. She was going to say, it's not all glamour and glitz in the service industry, obviously.
No.
Call it hospitality. It's more like hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that, I mean, it's very true. I was just doing some research on drug and alcohol use in the hospitality industry, and it's actually pretty remarkable. In 2021, the National Restaurant Association did a study on where we fall on the spectrum of, addiction and alcoholism in terms of industries in the nation. And we are number 3. Mining and construction come first with alcoholism, but the restaurant industry is number 3. And number 1 with highest rate of drug use, illicit drug use. So it's pretty impactful in the hospitality industry. A lot of individuals are suffering, but they're doing some pretty remarkable things to address those concerns. It's going to be interesting to see what the next year brings.
Taylor Model, I worked in didn't we all?
Yes.
We all did, right?
Yeah. Didn't we all? I did down in Naples, Florida. It was a Japanese steakhouse with a full bar. And of course, what is the reward you give the waiters after their shift? Open bar for like 3.5 hours. Yeah. And so for 8.5 hours, I just guzzled what I could. And there were miraculous appearances of all these other substances that you pointed. I don't know how they got in there, but they sure did by the truckload. And if you think about it, what does that have to do with somebody getting a good steak? Like, it just doesn't, like, it's not a casino here, but it is absolutely a way of life. So you must have developed some thinking, some ideas that companies could absorb to help their employees deal when they can't cope. Because when you can't cope, you get wasted. If you can cope, you don't have to get wasted.
Yeah. And, what do they have to cope with? I mean, hospitality is a fast-paced, high-stress, mentally draining industry with very odd working hours. Some, requiring overnight shifts if they're running events or weddings or things like that. So how do they cope with that? And a lot of the times people go to the bar afterwards. But in terms of, what the HR professionals or managers in that industry, or any industry for that matter, can do is really ramp up their employee assistance programs. What are some specific things that they could do unique to their industry? Most policies come along with life insurance and, plans that we can implement with mental health and, them seeing an online therapist. But what are some specific things that the company itself can do to drive engagement that doesn't involve going to the bar after work or having an open bar for your staff after work, right? So those are the questions that I think we want individuals to start thinking about within their industries. It's a much larger discussion. And to be quite frank, I don't know that we're necessarily ready to face those things yet in our nation, but we'll see.
To your point, and this is very smart because Congress is right now talking about bringing back more child care. And the purpose you have it, or child care meaning more like teenage kids that get out of school. There used to be basketball courts, there used to be PE, there used to be things that people paid for so that their kids weren't like running around like lunatics with nothing to do for 5 hours except.
I was a YMCA kid. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Right. And that kind of vanished. And so we expect them to sit and maybe read Dickens for 6 hours before they go home? Not going to happen. So you're right. We got to fill in some of these gaps with something different. And that is going to change. That's a big shift in thinking once again, but it's exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And with all good things, it takes time. So we're on the right track with a lot of these things, mental health, drug use, addiction in general. I mean, I know, Ashley, you can speak to a lot of things that are moving in a positive direction in this area. But with hospitality in particular, it's so ingrained in the culture. It's definitely going to take some time to break the mold on that. Interestingly enough, I've seen some big moves in California, taking some changes with this. There is a group called Chow, and they are basically one big EAP for hospitality, to engage people in sober activities as opposed with people in the industry, as opposed to going to the bar. So if we can kind of move that modality across the states, I think that we would see some positive feedback.
There's interesting, and you mentioned California, and I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years, which is why I'm now living in Tampa Bay again. Yes. Too much of a good thing leaves one wanting less. Something similar to Chow, they put many of the recovery meetings that people are aware of happen in bars. Because those are that LA doesn't have like, here's the park. Let's all hang out in the park. Here's the meeting. It's just 50 miles of 7-Elevens in every direction. So the bars are kind of like town hall. And so having these meeting places for people to do something entirely different. Now, I don't know that that's recommended. Like, to me, that's not really intuitive. Like, I don't know about that, but that's LA. LA is, it's its own animal. But they're trying to do something. And, apparently it's working.
Yeah. And I think that, with Florida being one of the biggest states involving tourism and hospitality, we have a whole youthful generation coming into this industry. And if we can target those individuals as opposed to the ones who are kind of stuck in their ways a little bit, we can see a change over the course of the next couple of years if we really wanted to impact the industry in a different way. So starting with the high school students, starting with the college students that are majoring in hospitality, I think we can initiate or actually provide movement on some of that change.
Well, we're going to find out a little bit more after we pause for just a moment. We're talking to Taylor Model, who has navigated the turbulent waters of the hospitality industry for over 2 decades. She not only survived, but emerged as a beacon of support for Riverside Recovery and has become one of the guardians of well-being, ensuring that people have the right tools for their journey to recovery. She's a yoga enthusiast, an adventurous spirit, and a virtuoso engaging with recovered people from all over. This is Reboot Your Life. Don't forget, shoot us a text, shoot us a voicemail, 323-8REBOOT, 323-8REBOOT. And if you're one of the lucky ones, because we're going to extend our little book gift, you're going to get a copy of Spirits Unveiled from our earlier guest, Michelle Welch. And that's just for you, our gift to you during this holiday season. 323-8REBOOT here on Reboot Your Life.
There are thrills and excitement ahead, fellows and girls.
We'll be right back.
Riverside Recovery of Tampa was created to offer state-of-the-art treatment options to people suffering from addiction. The model was developed to meet clients and their families where they are at and provide them with the tools and education needed so that they can achieve long-term recovery. No two people are the same, and no two people have the same experience with addiction. And it is for this reason that we tailor each treatment plan to the unique needs of each individual. Located alongside the Hillsborough River in the heart of Tampa, Riverside Recovery offers the full continuum of care. And what that means is that we offer medical detoxification, residential care, day treatment, intensive outpatient, and outpatient levels of care. The program at Riverside is focused on high-quality clinical care offered in a safe, comfortable, and serene environment where everyone feels empowered to change the course of their lives. The stigma that surrounds addiction continues to be high on the list of reasons that people do not seek help. At Riverside Recovery, we are working to change the narrative and empower people to recognize addiction as a disease, not a moral failing. We can recover, and we do, as evidenced by the thousands of people who have taken that courageous first step in asking for help. The staff at Riverside understand what it's like to recover. In fact, over 75% of our staff are in long-term recovery. If you or someone you know needs help and are ready to seek treatment, call Riverside Recovery of Tampa at 1-800-871-5440. That's 800-871-5440. You can learn more about the treatment we provide at rrtampa.com. Again, that's rrtampa.com.
It's Reboot Your Life.
Did you know that Reboot Your Life is on every major podcast service in the world? Now you can hear us 24/7 on demand and share us and like us with your friends. Keyword, Reboot Your Life on every platform from Spotify to Apple, iHeart to SiriusXM's Pandora, even Overcast and TuneIn. So join us online and share us with everyone you know in recovery or who could benefit by hearing these shows. Let us know what you think of our podcasts and throw in some likes and stars for extra love. Now, we're always here for you. That's Reboot Your Life wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the best Christmas ever.
Christmas, fun.
This calls for a party.
Cary Harrison with you along with Riverside Recovery's Ashley Neal. Thanks for listening to Reboot Your Life, where we help you Get back the life that you love through life hacks for recovery, the science of addiction, and tons of valuable insights, expert advice, and relatable stories of human experience. You can also enjoy our Anytime podcasts on all major listening platforms. Just enter Reboot Your Life and make sure you like us when you listen or share. Like I always say, we already like you, so it's a slam dunk.
Plus, you can shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail about anything that you might like to hear us talk about on the show. Also, maybe you have a story you would like to share with us, and you never know, we might even share it on an episode. You can do that at 3238-REBOOT. That's 3238-REBOOT. And right now, we're talking with Taylor Model, HR Manager at Riverside Recovery of Tampa, who has worked in the hospitality industry for 2 decades and lived to tell about it. Today, she is thriving and working to ensure that those in the hospitality industry are prepared should they also face addiction or work with others that do. So, Taylor, outside of your professional role with Riverside Recovery, I know that you engage with a hospitality group to bring awareness about addiction and other behavioral health issues that impact the workforce. Can you talk with us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So recently I did partner up with this hospitality group to start engaging with students on a high school and college level who are dedicated or interested in the hospitality and tourism industry in Florida. And we did a wonderful group with students at USF most recently to go over a real life situation or a problem within our company, and our company meaning the hospitality group. And, we shared with the students drug and alcohol addiction in hospitality and what are some ways we can come up with solutions to allow employees to feel safe enough to admit when they're struggling, and provide them the resources and the tools they need to be successful in attempting sobriety. And we made some pretty good headway. I'll tell you, the high school students had some pretty amazing ideas. Needless to say, we actually went with one of those ideas in real life. And we hope to see an impact on it. It's just a matter of getting the managers and the HR leaders on board with transparency and non-judgment to break the stigma is really what we're searching for.
I wish there had been something available to me like that when I was in college. Well, I guess I should backdate that to high school. When I was in high school is actually when I first got my first restaurant job, 16 years old. I was a hostess. And then when I went to college, it just made sense to work in a restaurant. So not only am I juggling a full schedule of school and also volunteering in the community, but I'm also working these crazy hours. And unfortunately, I felt that I had to turn to substances, quite honestly, to keep me awake in some scenarios. Having something like this available to me would have also helped me when I later went on to become a manager in a hospitality setting whenever I graduated college. So having those tools to know how to not only help myself, but also help the employees that I worked with would have been amazing.
Yeah. And I have a very similar story. I started when I was 14, actually, and, worked my way up through management, but I started as a hostess. And yeah, I was exposed to a lot of things very young, also being from Miami. It was a very fast-paced city. And yeah, we all started very, very young back then. And hopefully it's different today, but with all that stuff that I went through, and now being in a position where I could, kind of provide some insight on, hey, this is what your people might be dealing with. Are you willing to address it? And if so, how can we do that? That's the real question that we need to start asking ourselves. And with the younger generation, it's getting more difficult to reach them in person. So what are some ways that we could apply technology to the lessons or the exposure of, recovery and sobriety? And, I know at Riverside, we're doing some things to implement, the engagement and the entanglement, so to speak, of technology and treatment. And I know that in the hospitality industry, with this hospitality group in particular, We are working on creating some type of platform or app engagement with easy resources to recovery material. So yeah, it's exciting. It's very exciting.
So let's end on a positive note. We know that burnout is a real thing. It's real in so many industries. It's definitely a concern in the hospitality industry. Are there any tools that you would recommend to people that work in the hospitality or service industry to help them rejuvenate?
Yeah. And coincidentally, it's very similar to recovery. Have your people with you, have your network, have people that you trust and can talk to, but also take time for self. We always hear this big work-life balance, and sometimes it's harder to achieve than we actually think. But 10 minutes in the morning or 10 minutes before bed, it does wonders, believe it or not. It might not seem like a lot, but it definitely does. Reading a book for 5 minutes, watching something that kind of blinks your mind for a moment. I'm not talking binging Netflix. I'm talking maybe, some type of inspirational video or even an audio book, something like that. But those are the things that I do, and engage in the community is a really big thing too. Getting outside of self is probably the biggest advice I could give.
Taylor, are you telling me that binge watching Grey's Anatomy for the second time is not good for my mental health?
I'm binge watching Fringe right now, so I am probably going against everything I just said, but it's such a good show, and I just forget about real life,
We can't all be perfect all the time.
It's just changing the channel in your brain. So I like sci-fi. I can just sit and watch sci-fi all night and be like just pigging. It's just beautiful. And I relax and I fall asleep. So phasers, destroyers, it's all good. Whatever it is, just change the channel.
Yes. Whatever works for you.
Right. Thank you so much, Taylor Model. Thank you so much, Ashley Neal. We are regrettably out of time, but you can catch our Anytime podcasts on every major streaming platform, even the minor ones. And you can always shoot us a text at 323-8-REBOOT. We've been talking to Taylor Model. She's armed with 2 decades of battle-hardened experience in the demanding trenches of the hospitality industry. In her current post, she dons the mantle of support for the friendly staff at Riverside Recovery, ensuring that they get to wield the right tools and resources to help folks find that easy path to recovery. Her unwavering commitment extends to everybody, inside and outside of Riverside, a commitment that transcends mere professional duty. As you can hear, Taylor Model is a model of resilience, an advocate for recovery, and a fan of holistic well-being. We want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. We know that this can be a time of great stress, family, friends, but just know you are not alone. We are here with you, and we're available to you 24/7 on every major streaming platform. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays to everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Reboot Your Life.
Reindeer in the night, Donner and Blitzen, flying through the sky. With their friend Vixen, they'll hit every house before the night is through. Somewhere in that sleigh is good old Saint Nick. He's got a barf bag in case he gets sick. He's had too much milk and all those cookies too. Reindeer in the night, 8 flying mammals, and they're on their yearly flight. They're pulling Santa and he's kinda hard to lift. Each year there's more gifts down your chimney, ho, 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 unless you live in a condo. Yes, it's quite a sight to see them flying, Rudolph's nose so bright. It's almost blinding like furry satellites, them reindeer in the night. Ho, 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 do, 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 dee, da, la,
Riverside Recovery. It's Reboot Your Life.
Did you know Riverside Recovery of Tampa embodies a holistic approach to addiction treatment? With a team of compassionate professionals dedicated to guiding individuals toward lasting recovery, Riverside Recovery provides a comprehensive range of evidence-based therapies, counseling, and support services. Riverside Recovery understands that every person's journey is unique. Their personalized treatment plans are crafted with care, addressing the individual needs, challenges, and aspirations of each resident. Whether someone is navigating the early stages of recovery or seeking ongoing support, Riverside Recovery stands as a steadfast partner on the path to wellness. At Riverside, recovery is not only possible, but also a transformative journey toward a brighter, healthier future. Ask folks who've been there, people who have rediscovered their inherent worth and potential. In the serene surroundings of Tampa, Riverside is a peaceful retreat of tranquility conducive to self-reflection and healing. Riverside Recovery believes that the journey to recovery is not just about overcoming challenges, but also about discovering your own inner strength and resilience. The dedicated staff at Riverside Recovery are your compassionate companions on the road to recovery, and they recognize that true healing encompasses the mind, body, and spirit, all while comfortably addressing the many aspects of addiction. For those seeking a sanctuary of recovery in Tampa, Riverside Recovery is a place where the river of hope flows steadily, nurturing the roots of lasting change and revitalization. You can learn more at rrtampa.com. That's rrtampa.com, or call 1-800-871-5440, 800-871-5440, 800-871-5440.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping the self-employed and people just like you that need affordable health insurance to get it. We have short and long-term health insurance plans, and some even cover dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your family's health insurance. It's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-478-4170. 800-478-4170. 800-478-4170. That's 800-478-4170.
Introducing the Reboot Your Life hotline. We've set up a dedicated phone number so you can leave your comments, questions, or even a piece of your own life story whenever you feel like it. Feedback matters, and we know you may have something you want to get off your chest. Call or text our Reboot Your Life hotline if you'd like to tell your story or leave a comment. It's an easy number to call or text, 323-8-REBOOT. 323-8-REBOOT. Again, that's 323-8-REBOOT.
Did you know that Reboot Your Life is on every major podcast service in the world? Now you can hear us 24/7 on demand and share us and like us with your friends. Keyword, Reboot Your Life on every platform from Spotify to Apple, iHeart to SiriusXM's Pandora, even Overcast and TuneIn. So join us online and share us with everyone you know in recovery or who could benefit by hearing these shows. Let us know what you think of our podcasts and throw in some likes and stars for extra love. Now, we're always here for you. That's Reboot Your Life wherever you get your podcasts.